the only one who found this book kind of hilarious? I mean, it seems like I was the only one, so maybe it's just I have a weird sense of humor. Not that it was necessarily trying to be funny, but I felt like there were some things where it could have been funny intentionally, and then there were some things that were definitely unintentionally funny, like the Russian names. After a while, I just started laughing at them. But there were other things that seemed like they could have actually been intended to be at least somewhat funny. They were more like naturalistic human interaction stuff funny, and not like, oh, this is a joke kind of funny. It was more like the humor of Firefly than like a funny, supposedly, sitcom. It was all natural humans of funny things. Funny. One of the things that I found really funny was the fact that Natasha is always in the room. Like, I read this book with my mom, and ever since then, anytime someone has gone to say something even vaguely important, we're like, oh wait, is Natasha in the room? Because she needs to be here so she can hear absolutely everything and be the best possible witness that there is. Because that's what you want when you're trying to hide that you committed a crime. And then there were other things that were just funny because of the social conventions that I'm even less familiar with than the social conventions of the culture I actually live in, bleh, which says a lot, actually. Like, how they'd be running back and forth all day to go have an interview with different people, or people just suddenly walk into the place where you live completely uninvited, usually without knocking, and they're just there, and then you have to deal with them there, and I'm so glad that's not a thing that we do today. It would just be way too much human interaction, and it would be scary. One of the other things that I found really interesting, and that was probably one of my favorite things in the book, was how Raskolnikov goes from at the beginning of the book saying things like, trifles are what matter, why it's just such trifles that always ruin everything, to later in the book, right before he commits the murder, he basically thinks that there's no way that he could possibly get caught because he would never make a mistake that a normal mortal man would make because he's better than them. And I liked seeing Raskolnikov always thinking he's better than everyone else and yet hating himself so much, and it was wonderfully done and very well written and really convincing, because that's kind of a hard thing to pull off sometimes, and this book did it really, 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 really well. And yes. I also appreciated that there were a lot of things that Raskolnikov did for no reason whatsoever, other than he was kind of out of it, so he did weird stuff. But then he had to actually deal with the consequences of doing that stuff, because that's also something that I don't see a lot in books. Like, books, usually a character has to have motivation for everything we think, but actually that's not really a reflection of reality, because in reality we all do things for absolutely no reason whatsoever and we don't know why we did things. And they may not have a nice, neat motivation like a fictional character does, which is why I really liked this book, because Raskolnikov doesn't really seem like a fictional character. He seems more like, well, myself put into Russia. In having actions that don't have a clear motivation, he actually, what would often be considered to be bad writing, actually makes him a much more complete and fully realized person than just a fictional character who everything is planned out about them. And they may be a really good character, but you can still tell that the author has a plan for what they're doing. Which, I mean, Dostoevsky obviously had a plan for what he was doing with Raskolnikov, but the way he does this plan makes it seem like there isn't a plan. Like, Raskolnikov just does things because that's what he does, not necessarily because he wants to get something out of it, even if he wants to do the thing. He just does stuff, which I like a lot. And it made him a better character, I think, and not just, well, more of a person and less of a character. So, that I really liked, and I was going to talk about other things, but I can't think of them now. So, Dan, I will see you on Monday, unless I don't, in which I'll see Lauren on Tuesday, I hope.